Welcome to Art and Soul this week. I'm your host, Kelly MacIntyre, and on this week's show, we've got an interesting conversation with Jennifer Smith. She's from the Milton Film Forum. Then later on in the program, we're going to be seeing two artists, and it's the launch of the 2012 Milton Studio Tour. So we're going behind the scenes with Jenny Panda. As well, we're going behind the scenes with Nancy Cuttle, and she's got some exciting sculpture she's working on. Then later on in the program, we've got a fabulous live performance by Georgetown's Bach Chorale and the one and only Ron Greidanus. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to be sitting down in one of these seats in just a moment to have a great conversation with Jennifer Smith. Well, the Milton Film Forum is part of the Film Circuit program, which brings films from the Toronto International Film Festival to over 160 towns and cities across Canada. Now, the response, I hear, Jennifer, is absolutely incredible and overwhelming from last year because it gives people a chance to really see films they might not necessarily have a chance to see. So I was going to say, have you found the last year?
Oh, it's been extraordinary. People have absolutely loved the program. We started our first film last year. We had 70 people come, which was great. We immediately outgrew the smaller Min-Max hall, and had to be here in the Mattamy hall because, I mean, by the end of it, we had almost 250 people coming. It's just been extraordinary, and we're expecting far more this year as the word gets out. It's a wonderful way to see films. It's really the only way to see these films on a big screen anymore. I mean, a smaller venue like Milton, the large theaters, they understandably, they have the big blockbusters. They have the ones that are going to make the money. They're not getting the smaller international, independent Canadian films that we show here. So it's absolutely perfect.
Well, the thing is, when we're talking about these films, give us a flavor of what's coming up this season.
Oh, it's going to be wonderful. We have our first 4 films set. We're not quite sure about the timing yet in terms of the schedule. We're still waiting to confirm that. We know that we're going to be getting the movie Hysteria, which is hysterical. It really is.
An interesting topic.
It truly is. It's a Victorian period piece about the invention of the vibrator. And it is quite literally one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. I saw it at TIFF last year, and people just could not stop laughing. It is absolutely wonderful. Maggie Gyllenhaal's in it. She's fantastic. Jonathan Pryce, Hugh Dancy, wonderful, wonderful film. Don't be put off by the subject matter because it is incredibly funny. We also have Edwin Boyd, which is a Canadian feature. It's one of those very rare creatures that is actually an English language Canadian film with a Canadian director-writer, with Canadian stars, Canadian cast. Scott Speedman is starring in it, which is absolutely wonderful. And it's a Canadian story that so many people don't know about. We know all about Al Capone, we all know about Bonnie and Clyde. Hardly anybody remembers Edwin Boyd, who was this huge bank robber. He was a huge story back in the 50s. He was a bank robber in Toronto. And he was a war vet from World War II. He was a bus driver for the TTC and turned to a life of crime. So it's a fascinating story, and one that I think really needs to be told.
And it's interesting when you say a story to be told. These evenings aren't just sitting and watching a movie as you would if you went to a movie theater. It's an interactive. So you're actually speaking to the audience before the movie. They get a chance to experience the movie, and then after, there's this conversation after about the movie. So maybe tell everybody just the flavor of that night when they come out on those Wednesdays.
Well, it's great. It's almost like being at a film festival, and not the fancy gala part of a film festival that you see on television. This is the real experience where people who just love films come together. They get to see these things on the big screen. One of the Film Forum committee, usually me, gets up and talks about the film, gives a little bit of the background. And talks about some of the upcoming features and so on. We're hoping to get some guests in this year, which would be amazing. Which would be amazing. I'm really hoping to get somebody from Edwin Boyd to come in and talk about that film, because it was
being all Canadian.
It was all Canadian. It was all shot in it was actually shot in Sault Ste. Marie, because Sault Ste. Marie's got a little more snow than Toronto, and they wanted to do a winter thing. But yeah, it's great, and so then people get to see the film. And then afterwards, we all retire to the lobby, and the Milton Centre for the Arts is kind enough to provide free coffee and cookies and refreshments, and we all get to hang out together and talk about the movie and talk about our experience.
The thing is, and that's right, nail on the head, because you go to a movie these days at your regular movie experience, and the conversations when you leave the movie theater are, did you like it? Did you not like it? And the answer would be just a yes or no, hopefully not. But this just evokes, just a different conversation, because you're watching the movie, but then you're also having a conversation about the plot, the storyline, about how maybe it touches your life or your world. It's got to be, so
and about the issues that are raised.
Yes,
last year we had we're going for a little bit more lighter fare this year.
Yeah.
Last year we had some very serious films. We had Sarah's Key, which is about touches on the Holocaust and the experience in France. We had films about abuse in the church orphanages in Australia. So we're getting into some heavy issues. I'm always joking to my fellow Film Forum people that I have to remember to bring my little packet of Kleenex with me whenever I come, because by the end of it, half the time I'm in tears. So it's a very moving experience, and then you get to share that with other people who shared that experience.
Well, again, Jennifer, you're involved. Magdalena, I know, is behind the scenes involved with you as well. But how did you get involved with this Milton Film Forum?
I've always loved film. I've always loved independent film. I'm very passionate about Canadian film, and the other people on the committee will tell you I'm always the one that's championing the Canadian, but we have to get a Canadian film in. But I've been writing about film for quite a while. I was writing a film review column with Murray Townsend for the Milton Champion for a while there. I blog about films. As I said, I was for the first time, believe it or not, I was actually at the Toronto Film Festival last year. I was commuting in on the GO bus, which was a lot of fun. And then last spring, I actually had the opportunity to go to Ebert Fest, Champaign, Illinois, which is Roger Ebert. It used to be Roger Ebert's Overlooked Film Festival. It's a very different kind of film festival. He picks the movies himself.
Tell us about the venue.
Oh, the venue.
We're sitting here and it's beautiful.
Oh,
and it's wonderful.
It is.
But you're saying it was an old theater.
Yeah, the Virginia Theater in Champaign, Illinois, which is actually not the only old theater in Champaign, Illinois. I don't know how they managed to preserve these things. It's a 100-year-old vaudeville theater. Wow. They've completely renovated it, 1,500 seats, a screen that is the biggest movie screen I've ever seen. It was all digital projection, so the quality was just spotless. And they will bring in, they don't have the big star. They had a couple of big stars. They had Michael Shannon in, but it's mostly the directors and the writers and people who are behind the scenes. And then they will also bring in older films, which is actually something that I would love to do with the Milton Film Forum. They had a series of silent short films from the 20s. They had the last screening was a screening of Citizen Kane with Roger Ebert's film commentary. And that was extraordinary, because he can't speak now because he had surgery from his cancer. And but it didn't stop him from getting up on stage and speaking through his computer. And his wife Chaz was up talking all the time, and she was just extraordinary. So it was a wonderful experience, and I get to bring that back to the Film Forum and talk to people about the movies I saw there.
And you know what? In closing, we've got to tell people. So we've got it's every Wednesday.
No, it's the first Wednesday of every month.
Yeah. And it's so for more information, people can find it about the movies. I know the schedule's not set in stone yet. We have a flavor of sort of what's going to be coming. So go to which website? What's the best?
Go to the Milton Center for the Arts website, and if you go to What's Happening, there's actually a thing in the side tab that says Milton Film Forum, and that will give you all the information, the ticket prices which are incredible. It's $9 for a single ticket, or you can get a discount if you buy 4 tickets for 4 films, or you can buy an entire season's pass for a very reasonable price.
Coffee and tea and
your coffee and cookies and everything. Exactly.
Well, speaking of chat, it's been great speaking with you, Jennifer Smith, again from the Milton Film Forum, and check it out on the website. This year, the studio tour takes place the last weekend in September. And through our programs over the course of these weeks, we're going to be going behind the scenes to speak to a couple of the artists. And this week, we're actually going behind the scenes with Jenny Panda, as well as the talented Nancy Cuttle. Artist, author, illustrator, retired teacher. I should carry on. Jenny Panda, you've done so many incredible things, inspired children for 34 years through the school system, continue to inspire people with your teaching. So talented. I'm so thrilled to be here as we step behind the scenes with a lot of the artists leading up to the studio tour, and we're in the magic of your studio here. And we're going to be looking at some different pieces and talking about your latest journey. So welcome to the program, and we're surrounded by your beautiful artwork. Now, when I was speaking to you before we went to camera, things that inspire you, color and texture. Tell us a little bit about your journey with mixed media and textures.
Well, I really do like flowers, and I love people, which are all very organic. The growing of vines and things like that. When I was starting to study art in the 60s, people were into cubism and straight lines and things like that, and I found I couldn't. I had to do rounded. I did curves and swirls and things like that. I started doing oils and acrylic, and then I found that the oils bothered my husband, and the smell of the turps and whatnot, so I gave up oils and I went into acrylics, and I found it was so exciting. There's so many different media that you can use with acrylics, and you can use acrylic like an oil. You can use it as something to stick collage into. You can sculpt it, and you can use it as a watercolor. So there's all sorts of things, and I'm still exploring it because there's always new stuff coming out.
And the thing is, it was interesting because when we were speaking, you were saying it's not just you in the arts. You were inspired by the arts. You have a son, in the arts. Tell us how that sort of just shaped you and inspired you in your journey with the arts.
Well, when I was growing up, my brother-in-law was an artist. He was an artist back in the 40s, and he and my sister used to always buy me presents related to making art or creating things, making puppets, making pictures, making prints. So that really got me going, and I would see their wonderful colours that they had in their house, which was, bright pink and, lime green. They'd paint their walls a different colour all the time. It was wonderful. So that got me going. And my son is an art teacher.
So you inspired him.
And he inspires me back again.
Right.
So it's, yeah.
And it's interesting because we're talking about, again, artwork, and we've got some special things to share with the viewers in a moment. But the thing is, for you on this journey with the arts, you've also written books, you've illustrated books, you've touched children through your words, but you also continue to touch the children and go back into the school system in Halton. And you've got an initiative you're working on right now. You started in April and joined forces with a couple of other people. Maybe explain that to the viewers, what you're involved in.
I've written poetry since I've been retired 10 years ago, and I've been involved with poetry in Halton. And a couple of other poets in the area asked me to set up a series of workshops in Oakville at Queen Elizabeth Park Centre that was opening in the spring last year. And so I basically concentrate on poetry and art, and I teach the children to do a certain sort of poem with a certain sort of art. For instance, we did haiku with watercolor, or collage with limericks, this sort of thing, sort of taking one sort of art with one type of poem, and it got them going. And the other two were doing drama and poetry, and one was doing music and poetry. And so we're doing that again next spring. which is quite exciting. We're doing it in Oakville. I'd love to do it in Milton if,
So the call's out. So, but again, Jenny, we've had a quick peek at everything. Your world is so incredible, and for people to find out more about you, we're here at your studio, but you're going to be at Waldy's Blacksmith Shop for the actual studio tour. But the magic that's happening here continues. And again, go to Jenny's website to find more information about your books, your poetry book, and again, where you're going to be going in Halton and sharing your time with the children. So again, thank you for sharing a little bit of your world with us. Our next artist spotlight is with the multi-talented Nancy Cuttle, and I'm here in her studio, and I've got a couple of friends on either side of me, but we're going to talk to her because Nancy does not start a sculpture. Nancy is known for starting a movement, and this latest project, she's a year and a half into the making, another year and a half to go, but her vision for what she's going to do with these interesting characters on either side of me will change the lives of many people along the path as she presents this to the world in another year and a half. So I'm thrilled to be speaking with Nancy today to find out about this incredible new endeavor you're on called Barriers. And again, maybe you can take us a little bit through this incredible project that people will have a chance to visit and take part in, maybe, just interactive on the studio tour and learn a bit more about your gentlemen and ladies and the emotion here in this room.
Great. Well, I'm an artist who always has a message. That's just part of why I do art. I have to tell stories, or I have stories come to me. In this case, the story came to me because I got stopped by fences as I walked around the town. Everywhere I went, there was a barrier, and I started to realize what that did to me psychologically. So I came home, I dabble in a bit of poetry, so it started with a poem, it started with some emotion, and then I thought, okay, I want to get this message out somehow. So when you're a sculptor, you have to almost work backwards. You have to have your vision of where you're going to go and then work back to the beginning to figure out how you're going to put it together. So this board talks a little bit about tackling the big one and the planning that I had to go through. When I started to work on this, the projects I've done before, I've always worked about this big and sworn I would never work bigger. Right. But I realized that I needed to be this big to have the impact on people.
For a big message.
Yeah, it just had to hit you in the face and make you stop and think. So consequently, I'm working life size with 5 figures. So the actual idea, my ultimate goal, I've invited 2 other artists to work together, so we have a whole show that is based about barriers or fences. This one particularly is called Fences, this particular piece. And what we're doing, we're going to have our show in November 2013 in the Center for the Arts and the Wholesome Gallery. And then we're hoping from there to tour it through the public galleries in 1 day's driving distance in Ontario and really go, for me, that's the big time.
And the thing is, Nancy, it's 5 life-size characters. There's a gentleman behind me, but he has a special name. Again, this woman here. But it's 5 emotions, and that's right. So maybe tell us the 5 emotions you're going to be depicting maybe through this series.
Yeah, I think if we look at maybe this would help. So definitely. This is a maquette. This is 1/4 size of the whole project. It's actually 12 feet by 12 feet by 6 feet.
The installation itself.
The installation itself, yeah. So if you imagine this as being a fence in the shape of an octagon, and there's chicken wire all the way around the outside of it. Chicken wire you don't see quite as much. Translate it to chain link fence, but it's the same idea. And what I'm trying to capture here is what are the 5 emotions that you would basically go through when you are either held behind a fence, held in, or held out of things. What does that do to your psyche?
Inclusive,
yeah. So when you start with, let's start with this one because this is the happiest one and it's the first one. This is Freedom. Okay. That's her name, Freedom. She's actually cut a hole in the fence and she's broken through and she's come into this safe spot in the middle. So she is delighted. She's made it. She's like a flag waving to me. The next one is called Constrained. So this wire here is the same as Constrained, the large figure over on the other side. He is held within the fence, and within his body is the anger, the containment, and the frustration and everything, and he's looking out. This one is the one that I'm just starting to work on now. This one is called Not, and he is not tall enough, not smart enough, not athletic enough, not popular enough, all the things that you're not bad, you're just not something. So he's actually excluded on the outside. So he's like the kid who hangs on the fence and says, oh, I'd love to play, but I'm on the outside. So that's that excluding factor within it. This one will be fun to do because she's the devil. She's actually lifting up the fence, and she's down there sneaking under. So she's going to be a real imp. And then the last one, I've saved this one for the last, and this is the order I'm making them in too, by the way. I saved that one for the last because it's the most complex one to actually balance a life-size figure on one foot. I'm hoping I'll be really smart by the time I get there.
Touching that fence.
And what she's doing, she's laughing, running, laughing back, free as anything, and then she's that far from hitting the fence, and smack, it's like things hit you in life. Just out of nowhere, something hits you. So it's what these barriers do, and the more we put up, the more we have people face these things that, are awful experiences.
And if you had a vision or a dream with this, and we're looking, and we're going to follow you, which is exciting again for the next while till this is completed. Your vision for, you'll touch the lives of children, right through to the elderly, but just to let things go. And I mean, what's your vision for this? How do you want people to, what do you want them walking away thinking?
I want them, I like my art to be on a lot of levels. This could be just fun to look at, and enjoyable, and I'm going to put a motion detector on it, so this string of red lights will, it's visually appealing. But it's like the other work I've done. I think you come away and you start to relate it to your own lives. And maybe you start to realize when you put a fence up, what you've done to the person on the other side of the fence. And fences are not necessary. I mean, this is a world, it's all for all of us. And so I'm hoping that will happen. I'm hoping politically it will happen as well. I think that we're becoming a very bureaucratic, resistant to any kind of risk society. And so we put up fences, we put up insurance policies and everything else. So that, because I tend to get rather politically active that way, that's passionate, that will be something that I will use. Kim and Cal with theirs, they have different approaches to it, but it's all that same basic idea. So I think we'll take a message out to the public and see how they interpret it, really.
And that's what I would say. For Nancy Cuttle never just makes a sculpture, she creates a movement. And how exciting. And again, for people on the studio tour, come out on the 29th and the 30th of this month, explore, come through the studio and experience this. It's going to be quite a journey. And for more information, again, they can go to your website as well to find out about your sculpture. But again, Nancy Cuttle, not only thank you for today, thank you for being you. And the things that you do are so incredible because you're always, it takes it past the studio. It's going to be helping so many people. Thank you so much. Georgetown Bach Chorale is launching their 2012-2013 season, and we're thrilled at the end of this program to close things off with a performance by Ron Greidanus himself, the conductor of Georgetown Bach Chorale. This is Ron Greidanus.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my private home here at 157 Main Street. Tonight I'm in preparation for a wonderful, what promises to be a wonderful, concert for two pianos. It's Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1 in B-flat minor. Now, back in the olden days, back in the 1800s, when Tchaikovsky would have premiered this work, he would have tried it out. In his case, it was, I believe, Nicholas Rubinstein, not Archer, the famous pianist. And he deemed it unplayable. He just thought it was more ridiculous and people couldn't play it, and what was Tchaikovsky thinking? Meanwhile, I think pieces at the same time, like the Busoni Concerto, were 20 billion times more difficult, so I don't know what Mr. Rubinstein was thinking. So dedication got rededicated to Hans von Bülow, and then he went to go on tour in the United States and of course around Europe, and it became basically one of the most standard concertos in the repertoire, that with the Rachmaninoff second and even the Grieg. But Tchaikovsky gets played a lot, and it's a marvelous, noble concerto. My personal approach to it, I play it a bit more nobly than, smash, crash, bang, which I'm not really into. So Tonight's concert will be with 2 pianos, the second piano being done on the orchestra part, and then my piano, of course, playing the solo part. But you'll hear in this rendition bits of orchestra and bits of solo piano part, so the whole works. Anyway, off to the races we go, Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto.
Well, that's Art and Soul for this week. Well, if you know someone in the arts and you'd like to be part of the Art and Soul program, please send us an email. The contact information is at the bottom of the screen. And also next week, don't miss our show. We have the multi-talented opera singer Cassandra Warner. We're center stage with her. So we'll see you next time. I'm Kelly MacIntyre for Art and Soul.